Have you ever wanted to set up an alarm system at home but didn't want to buy a lot of equipment or pay for a monthly subscription? Well, today I'm going to show you a do-it-yourself home security system focused on doors in particular that you can set up for literally just a few dollars worth of parts. So here we have a magnetic reed switch, and this sensor came in a pack of 2, and you can get these for literally just a few dollars online. I think it's a few bucks a piece. And essentially what this is, it's very simple, is there are magnets in here, and when they're close together, then they're magnetized, and when they're not, they're not. And so this is the basis of a lot of security sensors, in particular for doors or windows where some sort of action, such as opening the door or the window, will cause the sensors to move apart from each other, which can indicate to the alarm system that something interesting has happened. And potentially this is an incident that warrants some other action. Now, in this case here, the way that this sensor is set up is it is in its normal state when the magnets are together, and when the magnets are apart, that is the off-normal state. And so the wiring here is, I have a telephone line here actually, and I have tip and ring going to I have ring going to the common terminal, which is here, and I have ring going to the normally open terminal. And in the middle we have the normally closed terminal, and I have yellow and black connected to this terminal here, and that's not really necessary. I only did that just to get the wires out of the way so they weren't hanging out in the air like that, and that way they were tied to something. As you probably know, these 2 wires in a normal telephone line aren't used for anything with modern telephones and whatnot. We only use tip and ring. So the outer 2 wires, yellow and black, are not connected to anything on the other end. So it doesn't really matter what they are wired to. It's not going to close any circuit. So all we really have are 2 wires here, and it's wired through the normally open terminal because, again, in the normal state, the circuit is open. Now, when the door opens, that will actually close the circuit, and thus it will take the telephone line off hook. Now, why on earth would we take a telephone line off hook when we open the door? But there is the beauty of this solution. So I have this connected to an Astra system, and this is just an extension here. And the extension is connected to the system, and so I can essentially use this as an input to the telephone system that way, so that whenever the door opens, it takes one of the extensions off hook. And from there, using Asterisk, obviously, can pretty much do whatever you want. So that is sufficient to build a security system. So I've got this hung up here. There is some adhesive on the back, but I've put some painter's tape on it just for good measure. And I have it coupled here to an extension cord here, extension phone cord that is. And this is just a normal splitter, but fun fact, if you're like me and you have a lot of splitters but not enough couplers, it seems, well, you can use a splitter as a coupler. Simply connect the 2 cables that you want to couple together to the outputs of the splitter, and leave the input unused, and that will just extend your phone line there. It will also reverse the polarity. So this is a very effective poor man's polarity guard if you need to reverse the polarity for a telephone that is polarity sensitive. In this case, we don't care about polarity because this is not a touch-tone telephone. At least I don't think it is. It's not a touch-tone telephone. In fact, it's not even a telephone. So it doesn't really matter what the polarity is. We can just use that as a handy mechanism for getting this sensor wired all the way back to the telephone system. So here we are at the other end of that long extension cord. From the splitter that I showed earlier, I have this long cable coming around, and that plugs into the patch panel here on port 24. The circuit presents no resistance to the phone line, so it will actually work, again, because of the protection that's built in. This is connected to an analog telephony card here. But you may find it ideal to add some resistance. So an easy way of doing that, I happen to have some of these connection blocks sitting around, and these are not your typical connection blocks. These are 625 A28NK 8-wire unkeyed jack assemblies. You can look it up. It's got the wiring diagram right there. But these are interesting. Now, usually what I do with these is I have a quarter modular phone where it just has spade locks on the end, and I'll want to turn it into a modular, well, I don't want to turn it into modular, but I want to connect it using a modular connection. So typically in those cases, I'll completely ignore this cord here, and I'll connect the modular cord from the patch panel in here, and then here we have tip and ring. And so in the connection block, you can simply take your hardwired phone with the spade lugs coming out and wire it into tip and ring. And this wouldn't end up getting used at all in that application. Now, if you're looking at this a little bit more closely, you may notice something interesting, that the wires coming out of this cord here are actually going to this terminal for the two blue wires, which are the inner wires on this cord, and the orange wires are going to this terminal and this terminal. So if you just take a telephone, plug it in here, and then plug this into something, nothing's going to happen because they're not connected. But what you can do, and what I've done here, is rewire the connection block so that it does what you want. Now, for a normal connection block, you may not have to do as much rewiring. These are just the ones I happen to have laying around. Now, the real reason that I'm using this is so I can easily add some resistance to the line. So what I've done here is I've added this 100 ohm resistor in series with the phone line. So I have that going from this terminal over here over to this terminal, and this terminal is connected to tip of the phone, tip of the modular jack. So this is where the whatever is on that extension can plug in. That can plug in here, and then that's wired in here. I've got this resistor, and then from here we have a wire that goes into this cable. Now the other one is actually coming out here and was going to this terminal originally, but I rewired it to this terminal, which is shared with ring from the modular jack. So I'm not actually sure if this is preserving or reversing polarity. Like I said earlier, I don't care about the polarity, so that's not relevant for my purposes here. The important thing if you're doing this is probably just to add some resistance, because a short circuit presents no resistance, and so that was really the main goal here, was to add some resistance, not to make it exactly like a telephone, but at least to put something there. And this isn't strictly speaking necessary. Again, this works perfectly fine without one of these, but if you're plugging it into something that you're not super sure will handle that properly, or you just want the additional peace of mind, you can go ahead and use one of these to handily add some resistance to the line. Now here I've got the Asterisk console open, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go open the door and let it stay open momentarily and then shut it, just so you can see that indeed we're able to take an extension off hook and then put it back on hook again. And there you have it. As you can see, we were able to take that extension off hook and hang it up again when the door is shut. So I've gone ahead now and written an asterisk integrated alarm system module. And it's fairly simple as alarm systems go, but it does support the basic functions that you would expect from an alarm system. So if we go ahead and we open the door now, so here we have a Polycom IP phone that here is doubling as our alarm system panel. And yes, the tone you hear is the crybaby tone. And if we go ahead and we enter our super secret pin, we can disarm the system. So that was confirmation tone that you heard there. Confirmation tone indicates that you've successfully disarmed the system or performed whatever function. And the crybaby or howler tone, as it's sometimes known, I thought was just perfect for an alarm sound when the system is in alarm. In fact, it was back in the day when that was used, it was often kind of feared by young children for that purpose, that thought they had done something wrong when they left the phone off the hook. So using the permanent signal tone there felt very appropriate. So now normally that's the way that that this would work, that every time the door opens, that will trigger the alarm. Of course, that handles ingress events perfectly fine, but it doesn't really allow for egress in an elegant way. So to do that, it's a little bit clumsy. But you can manually invoke the keypad application by dialing a special extension. And if the system is, you know, in a normal state like it is right now, where there's no alarms going off or anything, then that will allow you to egress without triggering the alarm. So we can go ahead and do that. And there was a brief burst of confirmation tone there. And so now, if the door were to open, nothing happened. Now, we can also test the behavior when the door is opened and the alarm is not disarmed in a timely manner. So our alarm panel here has activated again. Now, say we don't know what the pin is, so we enter something that's not correct. And here that pin has been rejected. And on this system, I have it configured to give 45 seconds for whoever is entered to correctly enter a pin. There are multiple pins that can be configured. And right now we're coming up on that time. We're 40 seconds in. So now we have transitioned to an active breach. And I have it configured to page me, which I am getting a page now. So here I can see I've got a page, and it does say, probably can't see it very well, but it says alarm breach, alarm, and then it will give the client ID that I have configured, and I've just used a value for testing here. So right now it just sends me a page. I could also have it make a phone call or whatever. Now, it is illegal to have an alarm system make an automated call to 911. So that's why alarm monitoring centers exist. So they will receive events from your alarm system, and then if needed, they can call the appropriate people. But don't have your alarm system automatically call the police. That would be very bad, and it would be illegal. Now, lastly, here I have a thermal receipt printer much like one you would find at a point of sale system. And here I just have it printing out anytime there is some kind of alarm event. So door open, door close, alarm disarm, that sort of thing. Of course, it's all logged by the alarm system modules, both by the client machine as well as the server machine. So there's plenty of logs there. So this is not actually necessary in any way. It's just sort of something additional here that I had this printer sitting around, and I thought this could be interesting data to log out to the printer, so that way there's an actual paper trail of any events. And so that was you might have heard a small sound that sounded like a relay clicking or something whenever the door opened or shut or some event occurred. Well, that was the printer printing out various events. So let me just feed it there so we can look at the last couple events. I'm afraid the resolution isn't terribly good, but if we're looking at some of the more recent ones here, these correspond to that last test we did where the door was opened and the door was closed, and then within that minute the system logged that a breach occurred, and then a couple minutes later we finally went ahead and disarmed the alarm. So that corresponds to that there, and then these are various other events from other tests. So this is just something interesting to print out to the printer, but of course you don't have to do anything like this. This is not really relevant to the alarm system. It's not integral in any way, but the mechanism for doing this, of course, the alarm module that I wrote has hooks for events whenever anything occurs, so you can have some custom code execute. In this case, among other things, I'm also printing the events out to the printer here. And there you have it, a custom homemade alarm system that is pretty robust for just a couple bucks. And if you ever have any unwelcome guests at home, well, they are going to be in for a surprise.